Hello folks. You know, a few weeks ago a fellow contacted me and asked me if I was interested in buying a helicopter. Well, being it was a vintage helicopter with parts being a rarity, the value of the helicopter back then was pretty high, and I was not prepared to pay the expensive price that he paid for it back then, especially if I couldn't get parts. So he wasn't too happy with the price that I gave him, which was quite a bit lower. But a few days later, you know the man, Frank Guthrie, decided to send it to me anyway. And I told him the best I could do was try to restore it and make it fly. When I got the box from Frank, I was blown away at his packing job with the weight and all. He did a fantastic job. And he meticulously and very carefully put 90% of it together years ago. Well, you're looking at the process. And I'm going to be setting the pitch with the Moss technique, as I always did with all my helicopters. Well, it's also pretty heavy. It's just under 10 pounds with fuel, mostly all metal. I elected to use the 72 megahertz Circus radio for this movie, as it is really a great radio. I have one just like it, as you can see. Well, I never had a Stork. The biggest helicopter I ever had was my Cavan Jet Ranger. I also had my Kobe Kiko Hughes 300 with Echo 120. It's a weed eater engine with a pull start. I loved it till a servo failed. For you folks who never knew what it was like in the early days of helicopters to actually have to build one first, then know how to run the engine precisely, and then plus learn to fly it, I present what it was like. The first engine run and the test flights. So this is a history lesson for you and me both, of which I hope you enjoy. I sure did. Thanks, Frank. Well, I put the blades on and noticed that if a slight angle were to happen, the main blades would easily hit the tail rotor. And as you see, the specs call for bigger blades, but they don't give you a bigger tail boom to provide the clearance. I wonder how many folks crash this way but never knew why they crashed. I cut off 1 inch. Problem solved. Here's how I test the belt. You hold your tail rotor and you turn this up here. And see that? If you hear clicking, that's too loose. Got to loosen this up and tighten it up. Okay, you know, this thing's starting to drive me crazy. Every time I set it up, I come out here to try to spin it, and one of the blades just comes completely out of track by 2 inches. You know, I've checked and checked and checked. Well, about the 6th time, Jeff was over, and he experienced seeing the same problem. So I decided to take it back in and start looking for an illogical fix. I've already tried all the logical steps, so the only solution has to be illogical, right?
It's taking a sharp right turn for some reason.
Well, look at the angle of this all of a sudden. Well, here you can see the flybar paddles are tilted forward. It was neutral when we started, so something is slipping. Yeah, like I said, it sure feels like something must be slipping somewhere. And it was. Upon closer inspection, I found 3 of the 5 servo wheels cracked. You couldn't see the cracks, and the controls felt tight, but spinning it up under speed put more stress on those servo arms than you could know, so I replaced all the main controls, resetting up, and let's go try again. Well, I'm glad I caught those because that would have been a crash for sure. I also turned the rudder servo around because the tail rotor wouldn't reach right and it was interfering, so I had to take that all apart and turn that around. Let's go take it out and see what happens.
Whoa! Part of a blade? Part of a blade.
A blade?
Yeah.
Well, the tail rotor blade hit the main rotor blade when it flexed down on landing. Something is still too big, so since I have to replace the tail blades, I'm going to shorten them this time. Well, I've got these old carbon fiber blades. This should work. I'm going to make my own tail rotor blades. Well, since this is a vintage bird and it can't be replaced, I'm just going to take it easy and totally respect it. Well, I just wanted to mention that I've had many years of model airplane nitro engine experience, so I know how to set my engines. And to those of you who want to actually fly nitro engine helis, it's really imperative to know how to run and set them before you fly, because you can't afford to let the engine quit, especially when you're trying to learn to fly at the same time as trying to learn how to run and set the engine. And this is long before you learn auto rotate, which you may think will save everything, like full up does. But believe me, I've learned the hard way with plenty of crashes. Well, I'm running this engine kind of rich, it's kind of smoky, and I do that for all my beginning flights, and to be sure it'll be fine so it won't quit, because remember, lean engines quit, and they quit just like that, and there's no parts readily available for this helicopter, so I can't afford to have it quit.
That's what it was like to fly in the old days, folks. There you go.